Healing Through Running. On today's Do Hard Things Today podcast, we've got a special guest with us, Miss Christa Jones. And this is Hal Morris and Kevin Harrison.
Hey, everybody.
We are back. The pandemic is hopefully slowing down a little bit, but they're saying maybe we may have another spike at the end of the summer, but we're getting back to a little bit of normalcy. Normalcy in your life, Hal?
Hopefully the curve has flattened just a little bit.
Yeah, you've seen a lot of people out, for the fitness communities, a lot of things getting back, some group rides, group runs.
Yep.
We're starting boot camp back up this week. A lot of things going on there. So we're hopefully getting back to a little bit of normalcy with our whole community. As always, you can find us. Where all can they find us now, Hal?
Just about everywhere. We're, of course, on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. If you ask Alexa to play the Do Hard Things podcast, she will.
Sweet.
Yep.
Good deal.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to dohardthingstoday.com. You can find us on Facebook. We've got two groups, really. We've got the nutrition group, the Do Hard Things Today nutrition fitness group, and then we've got our local running group, cycling group. It's called Hub City Runners. You can find either one of those. You don't have to be local. Just ask to join those group, jump in. A lot of cool stuff going on there.
And our YouTube.
Yep, YouTube.
Got a video
right.
or two out.
Do Hard Things Today on YouTube. We're going to be doing some more stuff with that now that the social distancing is not quite as intense, and we can actually get out and interact with people. So we'll have more of those things coming. Today's podcast is a good. I always love when we can bring people on that have a story to tell that can inspire and help others. And one of the things that we talk about on the podcast a lot is where fitness and life intersect. And what we mean by that is we're not just a podcast that just talks about running and working out and cycling and those kind of things, but we're a podcast that talks about those things and how they interact with our lives and how we work through things and maybe deal with tough circumstances and how fitness and running and those kind of things help us get through that. And we've got a powerful story for you today. And we are, again, it's an honor to welcome in Miss Christa Jones to the podcast.
Hi, thank you.
So a lot of stuff to dig into on this. And, I think if you're listening, everybody deals with different things. And, Christa, you dealt with one of the toughest things you can deal with, which is losing your spouse. And, and then it's directly tied into your whole journey and getting up to where you eventually ran the Philadelphia Marathon.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that experience and now where you are now. I know you follow you on Facebook and I know you run a lot, doing a lot of cool things now. But let's step back and let's just start at the beginning and tell us about your husband and what he was doing. And I know that he was kind of the inspiration for this whole journey starting.
Yeah. So I met him May of 2012. We met through work, and so we became friends first and then kind of started dating and, went from there. And he was also in the Army Reserves, so for PT, obviously, he was always running. But he had already had a brain tumor prior to me meeting him. So he joked that was how he kind of got me to go on a date, like a pity date. And I was like, no, it's no pity date here. But I just thought he's so brave and tough and strong for basically, seeing that this has completely changed his life, how it's affected his whole life. And he's still going on. He's still out there living his life like, whatever. He's like, it's not stopping him. Mm-hmm. And so I found that very inspiring and it was,
So let's talk about that for a second because it is, talk about that spirit. What do you think the thing about him was? Because a lot of people, when they deal with that, quite frankly, they almost just lay down.
And he did. It was very much a struggle for him.
Mm-hmm.
He was originally diagnosed August 2011. He was going to sapper school, and he fell out, and they rushed him to the ER, and he woke up 3 days later like, oh yeah, you have a brain tumor. Then January the next year, he had surgery to remove most of the mass, but it was always still going to be a little bit there, and he had to go through checkups, and it really changed how he was going to go through life. His dreams were basically shattered because he wanted to go into law enforcement. Well, this just basically ended that career. He tried, but it's still, once you get to the physical part, it's like not going to happen. And it almost ended his military career, where they wanted to boo him out of the military.
Mm-hmm.
But after several years of going through a medical board, they cleared him. But that was his greatest fear. Is he loved the Army, and he did not want to leave it. He wanted to stay and be a soldier and lead his men. That's he was just very strong and just
so after
outgoing.
the first tumor, and they removed it, and then of course you have to go back to when did the next time, because I know he was doing chemotherapy. When did that start?
The first time he did chemo, in August 2014, he went to Duke for his quarterly checkup. And he go up there, do an MRI, and they look at the scans, and they compare him to all the previous scans. And it had showed that there were some changes in the tumor, and it had started growing. Yeah. So at that time, they decided they didn't need a biopsy or anything. They were just going to start him on the chemo pill. So he told me, he came to my apartment that night after, and I'm the one that was crying because I knew how big of a deal that was. And so for the next 2 years, he took the chemo pill every day. And he was actually supposed to, I told you, he was supposed to do the Savannah Marathon that fall, but the pill, it's just, you never know how it's going to affect your body. Yeah. And so it just made him feel very horrible. So he ended up not doing it. So it was the first time that he missed out his chance to do a marathon.
Well, but.
And then.
You said he did 3 half marathons while on chemo.
Yes. So that following January, he did do the Charleston half marathon. Mm-hmm. And he came through that pretty good, no problem. And then a year later, he did my first double-digit race, a 10-miler for the hair of the dog.
Yep.
And then he came later that month, he did the Charleston half marathon again, which he had originally signed up to do the full, but because he wasn't feeling that great, he struggled getting to that training point of going further than 15 miles. He struggled. Yeah. So he cut down to the half. And then the next month he came. So, in a few weeks he's done all this running. And then he comes back a month later and runs my first half marathon with me. Mm-hmm.
And when was that?
That was February 2016. So that would have been his third half. And then we'd always planned on doing more. But things got crazy because we got engaged that summer. And then there was wedding plans. And then he got off the chemo July 2016. Yeah. The doctor said he was clear. And then he was like, okay, we're getting married in 6 months because he thought, and we both thought, life is going good. I mean, he's off chemo. He's going to be getting promoted to captain in the Army, and life was going pretty good. And we thought about signing up for more races. Like he was going to do the full. And my experience with the half was not that great. Yeah. I'd gotten hurt, so I said, I'm good. I don't need to do a full. You can do that. I will stick with the half marathon and try to perfect that. But then a month after we got married in February 2017. And a month later, he got diagnosed with glioblastoma. Yeah. So, which throws everything out the window.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So from that point, that was that was March of 2017.
Yeah.
When he was diagnosed. From that point, what happened from that point with him and his health?
He got a little depressed because this meant death.
Yeah.
This was it. The average survival rate is 12 to 14 months. There is no cure.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a very small percentage that make it more than a year. And the further out you go, that percentage drops and it drops. So it's very rare to see anybody surviving, 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, it happens, but not without difficulty, not without problems.
Yeah.
It's not you're not 100% anymore.
Yeah.
You're changed.
Mm-hmm.
But he cried, and I said, we're not going down without a fight. We are not letting this rule our lives. We are going to stay optimistic, and we are going to just have that hope that something will happen, that he will be the one that has survived longer than a year, longer than 2 years, and so forth. And we hoped. And he had surgery a few weeks after his diagnosis, and they got 90%. It was 90% of the tumor. And everything seemed optimistic. I mean, he bounced back through surgery so well, and he was up the next day walking laps around the section, and we got discharged from the hospital because they don't really keep you in there for very long, but you have to stay there for like a week. Yeah. So we had to get a hotel. And I mean, he was up. It's like, hey, he didn't like being. He does not like being cooped up. Yeah. And so he was like, let's go get ice cream. So bandaged head. We were all Baskin Robbins getting ice cream, and he get tired, but he was just had that fighting spirit of like, this is not going to get us down. And we had been trying for a baby. I mean, that was one reason he was like, get married in 6 months, because his doctors had told him once he gets off chemo, we can start trying. 6 months later. Yeah. So that was all his mind of, I got to fight because I want to have a baby. Granted, I have 3 children from a previous marriage, and he loved them to death, and they just adored him. And when they talk about dad, they talk about him. But, it's part of you, that you may not live on. You want part of you to go on. And so he started chemo and radiation the beginning of May, and the week after he started chemo and radiation, found out I was pregnant.
Wow.
And that just sent him over the moon. And so he had a renewed vigor. He would tell all the nurses at the cancer centers, like, oh yeah, every time we get an ultrasound, it's like, take it in, show off the ultrasound. Yeah. He was very excited, and it helped. I think it really helped keep him positive and helped him keep going. And so he loved coming to the visits. He loved, doing all that. And despite the fact that most people don't go back to work, we were struggling financially. And so he went back to work full time as a FedEx driver. Yeah. And so it was hard. It was very hard on him. And I tried to find him another job. We've tried to look for something a little bit more, not as physically demanding. Yeah. But he's the type that he won't really tell you that he's hurting. I mean, you can tell, but he's gonna toughen it out as much as he can, and he's just gonna power on through the pain.
It was strong. I mean, you go back, you run 3 half marathons during chemo, and then you fight. You get a diagnosis like he got, and again, you can take that step back and just say, there's nothing I can do, or you can fight and live while you're living, and do that. And it sounds like that's the kind of man that you had.
Yeah. One of his friends had shared at the memorial, they were both in the unit together, and how one day it was like they were out in the field and they had to go for a group run, and he was complaining his head was really bothering him. He had a really bad headache, and he had just like, yeah, I just got to take my chemo. And he's like, man, you don't have to go out and run. You can just stay back here. It's like, no. And he's, very much a leader. He's like, no, I'm not going to be staying back and letting this hold me back. And he said he went out there and ran, and he acted like it was nothing. Just powered on through, and nobody knew how much pain he was in.
Wow.
He just didn't want to let his soldiers down.
Yeah. So this spirit that he had, and now, as we kind of shift into, the post him of, he had this dream of running this marathon and wanted to do that. It sounds like beforehand you really didn't have that dream. And it wasn't something that was very.
No, after my second half marathon, and I hurt my leg, my IT band, I was like, no, I am good. I thought this is the furthest I can go. That's it. I'm good. I'm half crazy. I don't need to do that full distance.
Well, obviously you did.
Yes.
So I've got to imagine that there was probably some, and as you said, there was a lot of crying, but I assume that there were probably some times of a lot of crying and soul searching and figuring out, okay, what do I want to do, and maybe how can I take what I learned from him, of this fighter and this spirit that he had, and carry it on in my life, and how did that affect you and help you in deciding that you did want to go ahead and take that jump in and do this marathon, which ended up being in Philadelphia?
I had thought about it. I kind of toyed with the idea a few months after he had died, but it really wasn't full until I started running again, slowly pushing the baby in the stroller, because he was 2 months old when Robert died. Yeah. And first we just went out for walks, and then once the weather got warmer, we would go and start running on the rail trail. Just run, walk. And it was very slow and just short runs. But I kept going, and I thought, well, I could probably, train. I could probably do something more. Yeah. And then that October, I did a race. I did the Spinks Fest 10K, and I pushed the stroller the whole way. Yeah. That was a lot of fun. I was so sore because it was my first race post birth, and I was like, okay, I started thinking about it more, and I was like,
how
I could do this.
Was that?
It was hard because, it wasn't something I had really planned on doing, but I knew it was something that he had always wanted to do. And I kept thinking I want to do things that he and I had talked about doing and then go do them with the kids. Yeah. Oh, right. Like we had discussed going to Disney World. He was like mixed about the idea and stuff because he had never been. But I took the kids to Disney World, and we did it. And I thought, well, this is just one of the things that I could do. Might be really slow, but I could try to do it. And I so officially started training like that December roughly. Kind of just not really like training, but that's where I got Katie Malone. Yeah. And I had I think I posted on the group about getting someone to help me with advice on things. And then I got in touch with her. And then I talked to her about things. And I thought, this could work. I need somebody to, one, push me to go past my comfort zone. And she will definitely push you past your comfort zone. And just to motivate me and keep me going and saying that, yes, you can do this. And she taught me a lot. And I got out there and I was PRing. I just kept moving my time lower, and it just made me feel just so amazing to accomplish, running a couple more half marathons and other races. And it just gave me a sense of pride. Yeah. And that helped out a lot. And then it just I don't know, it's hard to explain, like, really in words, like, how it makes you feel. It's like, you have this, like, voice in your head, like, yes, you can do this. And there's a part of you saying, maybe I can do this. And that's where the crying comes in, because there's the painful days where, how can I do this?
Mm-hmm.
But I just always think, he doesn't give up. I can't give up.
Yeah.
I just can't give up.
And you made an interesting comment in our Facebook interaction. Told you some of the questions we talk about. You said, I'm not the real talk it out with a counselor type of person.
Yeah,
and
that's not me.
But I think and I've seen this with other people of running. It almost becomes that where you end up, you do talk it out with a counselor, but that counselor's yourself in the road, and you're working through these things as you're training and as you're, and you start having these milestones. And it's, one of the things I ask you, how has this helped you to heal? And you responded back that, well, go ahead, answer that question. Because that was an interesting response. I want to expound on that a little bit. Then we're going to talk about the race.
About the
healing. Yeah.
So, yeah, running became my therapy. Yeah. Instead of going to somebody and sitting in a room and crying and talking about my feelings, I did try it, and I just it just wasn't for me. And so the more I ran, the better I felt. And running, actually, they've done studies. It does help reduce stress and anxiety. And that's what I had a lot of. I had a lot of stress and had a lot of anxiety. And so it helped calm me down. My husband was always my calming person. He kept me calm. He was very strong, but he was also very mellow. And so he just kept me calm. So running became my new way to take a deep breath, and go, and you focus on running. Nothing else matters. Yeah. You don't have to worry about the problems or anything. You just focus on your running, and everything else just felt better. And one of my friends, actually, who's also a widow, she had said that running for her also became her therapy after her husband died. And so it soothed my soul. And then I started running with the Hub City Runners, and it's like I found my niche. Yep. It's like I found my people, and they just made me feel better, I think, more than a counselor could. And counseling is great for people, and it can be very helpful. It's just, for me, running was what helped me better than anything.
Well, I think that it seems to be this connection with your late husband as well, where that's something you guys did together. You said it was your first double-digit race you did together, and, you watched him do these half marathons while which doing a half marathon when you're on chemo is a whole lot harder than doing a marathon when you're not on chemo. Let's just call it what it is. But, all right, so then you make the decision to go all in. Why Philadelphia?
So, trying to pick a race to do, there was a lot of, there's a lot of options out there. Now, some of them you have to have the lottery, so like New York and stuff, so you don't know what you're going to do. I'd actually wanted to do Savannah, but this is where the kids come in. It's the same weekend as the state marching band championship. So that was out of the question.
Yeah.
So I had to find a race that kind of fit in with the marching band schedule. Yep. And fortunately, Philadelphia Marathon was right before Thanksgiving, and I had checked with the band director. I was like, you guys aren't going anywhere. You're not doing anything. He's like, no. Okay. So... And plus, my brother-in-law, my husband's oldest brother, lives in Philadelphia, and they have a lot of family up there. So I approached my mother-in-law, and I said, hey, I've got this idea. What if I run the Philadelphia Marathon, and it's right before Thanksgiving, and we all go up together, and then we can have Thanksgiving with your family up there, because they hadn't met Boaz, and I thought this would be good, and she loved the idea. So... that's how we picked Philadelphia. And then my brother-in-law ran the race with me.
Okay.
So is your brother-in-law, was he a runner?
Oh, yes.
So he's a big runner.
Yes,
Yeah.
he is. He's a really fast runner. So there was multiple times I had to say, Richard, can you slow down a little bit? Because he did an Ironman that previous summer, Lake Placid, and he was like 110th place, 101st place. Yeah, so he's fast.
Yeah. And that is a hard race.
But he stuck by me the whole time and helped me even while I was towards the end wanting to burst into tears and really struggling.
And let's talk about that race, because it was from the temperatures, the rain, the sleet. Let's talk about and I haven't even asked you this, but let's talk about right before the race when you're standing there getting ready to start. Is the emotion level running high for you at that point?
I was actually feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
I was so excited. I was like really excited. I was bouncing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just like, I was a little nervous because we were struggling because my brother-in-law left from his place separately. And so we were all trying to coordinate with each other. And I was like, oh gosh, we got to find each other. And we were trying to do some pictures before we started. And it was just a little nerve-wracking, just making sure we're all together.
Yeah.
And just like, oh my gosh, I'm actually here.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. This is happening. We're about to leave. And so, but then I was excited because my family was there. My in-laws were there. My kids were there. They were all like, go mom.
Let me ask you, did you feel any pressure? And when I mean pressure of, like you said, this was a big connection to your late husband, and it's almost, sometimes things like this are almost not a turning of the page, but I don't know what the right word is I'm looking for. I think you get the gist of what I'm saying, but almost hey, this is, it's for me, but this is for him as well. And I've got to go out and I'm prepared.
No, I think I put pressure on myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really did. I can be a little competitive. Asked Jill and everybody. I had my goal. I had goals of how fast I was going to run, and I had all these preconceived notions of this is how it's going to be, and this is how the race is going to go. And I just, everything just went way out the window. But I put more pressure on myself than I think my family ever or anybody ever did. They were all cheering me on, very inspirational, like, you can do this, I love what you're doing. And, but I think I more just put pressure on myself, like, oh gosh, Christa, you're doing this. You better finish. You will finish no matter what. I mean, if you're crawling across the finish line, which is almost what I felt like, you're going to finish.
And some races do, like you just said, they just go to pot.
Yes.
Basically, and out of your control. I mean, we talk about this. We've talked about this several times on the podcast of how some things are just out of your control. And you had a crazy weather day. So just tell us about your whole race experience.
So, I said, the beginning of the race, very excited. Where they have the staggered starts and everybody's going, and it's our corral, and my heart rate's just like pumping. It's like, okay, and then we go and we're off, and I am feeling amazing. We get to mile 7, and then was our family. So they were like, yay. And I gave my oldest daughter a big hug, and they actually recorded that. So I was feeling really good. And then I passed off my gloves, and I had a headband, and I passed it off to them, and I kept my visor. And then we kept running.
Because it's not going to sleet.
Because we were getting warm. I mean, the rain, we were prepared for rain. It's like, I don't need my gloves and stuff for rain. And the temperature wasn't that bad. I mean, I just mainly wanted it in the beginning until I really warmed up. And then we saw them again at about mile 14. So 13, 14, somewhere around there. So it comes around from the zoo, and it comes down by where the rocky steps are. And it's right by the finish. which is kind of horrible because you see the finish line and you see these super fast people. I'm like, you're just halfway, and there's these people coming into the finish. So
Oh, no.
I hate that. I hate it when it's like that.
But it was great because I got to see the family. We're like, hey, got to see them, and that was nice. But then you curve around and you go straight up this road, and it runs by the river. And about mile 15, the wind hits, and the temperature has dropped. And so now you're like, oh, that's a little colder, but, it's still not too bad because you're running. You always feel warmer when you're running, and we keep going. And then the rain started, and it got a little colder. Now you're soaking wet, and it's windy, and it's cold. And you're approaching mile 20, around 20, 21, 22. And that range, that's where you have a curve and it comes around and you turn around to head back. So it's like, okay, this is the home stretch. This is it. I'd only trained up to mile 20. I had done 3 20-mile runs. So anything after that was now the furthest I had ever run. And I kept joking. It was like, well, now this is the furthest I've ever run. 22. But, was it horrible because you hit that curve, and I know in my head, I've only got 6 miles to go. And then I was thinking, okay, I only got 5 miles to go, I only got 4 miles to go. But then the rain got heavier. And then my brother-in-law and I were looking, and it's like, I'm looking at my hand, it's like, this is not rain. It is now sleet. And this is not good. And we are really starting to get cold, like really, really cold. And I was wearing shorts and a short sleeve t-shirt because I got used to running in cold weather, wearing that, and I always got really hot. But now I'm freezing. I'm really cold. My body feels like it's shutting down. It was really bad. And then I started having shooting pain in my leg. And so I was like, this is not good. Like, it would be sharp pain. I'd have to stop and walk a little bit. And the pain would go away, and I'd be able to run again. And then it would happen again. And then I'd be able to run again. And it's just back and forth. And surprisingly, I was still running fast. I was still passing people up.
Yeah.
But I was just so like, okay, the faster I go, the sooner I will get there. The sooner I can get wrapped up in warmth.
Yeah.
Like, get out of this cold. I mean, but it was just the cold. The temperature dropped. So it went from mid-40s to in the 30s. Went from just a slight drizzle to sleet and snow. It was now snowing. It was the worst of the worst weather conditions that could happen there.
Did you ever consider quitting?
There was a tiny part of me because I was hurting bad, and I thought, how am I going to what happens if my leg just really goes out? And I kept saying, you can't quit. You can't quit. You have to go do this. Robert, would not let you quit. Yeah. And so I just kind of pushed forward. I mean, I was kind of tunnel vision focused of, okay, my brother-in-law helped me. It's like, okay, there's that bridge. Get to the bridge. Get to the bridge, and you can walk a little bit because I'm going under the bridge. Okay, get to that point. There's a light pole. Get to the light pole. And I start taking it bit by bit by bit. It's like, okay, focus on one thing, get to that point, and my reward is a little break. And then I just keep going until we got towards the finish. And then we got close to the finish line, you see the stands, and there's family sitting up there, got their umbrellas, and they have held out waiting for us. Granted, we did find out they were at a coffee shop a little earlier, but there they are, braving the weather, cheering us on, and all I focused on was that finish line, and just like, okay, I did it. Definitely not my goal time, but we were just head on in, and then we crossed, and my brother-in-law picked me up. It's like, you did it, and And it was over, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!
You got
I
the
just
chicken
ran
broth
a
and the pretzel.
marathon." Yes, chicken broth with a pretzel, and I've never eaten a pretzel so fast. I was starving. I was like, "I wish we could get more. I need more food so bad." Because when you're running, you have your gels and you have your nutrition, and you plan out how much you need for the run. And I knew from previous runs, okay, this is how much I use. This is how much I'm going to carry on me. And it was not enough because we were so cold. We were burning so many calories.
Oh, yeah.
We were starving. And if I had some more, it would have helped. But, we were so hungry.
So what were your emotions? You crossed the finish line. What was going through your mind?
I want to get back to our apartment. I was so cold. I wanted to break down and cry. I really did. Wanted to hug my kids. I wanted to just.
I mean, you're feeling that you're tearing up
Yeah.
right now, going back to that spot.
It's like it was a great, amazing feeling. Like, oh my gosh, I just did this.
Oh.
I ran a marathon. I never thought I could do this, and I did it. And upset that Robert wasn't there to see it, but so happy that his family was there. His parents were there. He had other relatives that were there, and my kids were there, and it was just the greatest feeling to know that I accomplished this, that I did it with his brother, that we did this for him in his memory, and it was done. And I thought, okay.
And the interesting thing, what you really find, I think, with inspiration and with people that inspire you is you lost your husband, and you watched him fight a valiant fight and be strong to the very end. You find that through the inspiration of people that you love that have gone before you, that you really find out really who you are and how strong you are. And sometimes it takes doing something like this to really believe that about yourself and say,
Yeah.
You know what, like you just said, I did this.
Yeah.
And, and even though Robert, he wasn't physically there, Spirit was with you in, carrying you across that. But then you realize that, hey, I did this, and this is who I am. This is how strong I am. And, and then it's almost another chapter in your story of, hey, well, this is me now. I'm this strong, and look at what I was able to accomplish through hard work. And, through this whole journey, what would you say? And it may not even be something as dramatic, which there's really not a lot of things more dramatic than losing your spouse. But with people that are just in a bad place now, and maybe they're mourning the loss of a loved one, or maybe just, what would you say to them to encourage them to be able to keep moving forward, and maybe even, like we say, where fitness and life intersect, to allow the healing journey that you took. And again, like you'll never be completely healed when you lose a spouse, but you're in a process of healing and get better. What would you say to encourage anybody that's listening that's in that spot?
Don't give up. There is a strength in you that's there, and you may not be able to see it right away, but it is there. And it's just sometimes finding something to bring it out, to motivate you. A lot of people in my situation, like from my groups, my online groups that I'm in, and there's a lot of depression. There is a lot of depression in there, but there is a lot of hope. There are a lot of people who, like me, they're raising kids. They kind of got no choice but to be there, because we've got kids who are depending on us. So I can't give up. And so that's kind of helped. And I can't sulk down. I've got to get them fed. I got to get them to school and stuff like that. So it's like I can't give up. I have to keep moving forward with my life and try my best. I mean, that's all I can do is just try my best. So I say, don't give up. You are stronger than you think. And I don't like when people say you're so strong. I don't really like that necessarily because, like, I don't really have a choice.
Mhm.
It's a different kind of strength of you don't have to let this define you as a person. You are going through something terrible, but there are good times ahead, and you want to make that person proud.
Yeah.
You want to make those around you proud of the person, because you will change. You will not be the same person. You will be somebody new, but you just can't give up, and you just got to find something to help you stay focused and move forward, and then you discover something new about yourself, and there you go. Is you can just, and it's for some people it's very hard. I have seen people in my groups really struggle because they don't have a support system. I was lucky. I have my in-laws who are very supportive, very much there for me and my children. And a lot of people, they don't have that support system. So you got to go out and find a new support system. And what helped me is the Hub City Runners, is making some new friends that are helping me with this journey, who help motivate me. And so you need to find those people. Find the people that help you with your journey. People that are not going to hold you back, but they're going to push you along to get you going. And it's different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, it's like you just don't give up. You don't give up until you find what keeps you going. And then you latch onto that, and then you just focus and move forward.
Well, I asked you about quitting the race.
Yeah.
And you said something, though, that is, there's so many parallels out on a race course to life. And you said something. You said, I looked at that bridge. Said, just make it to the bridge. I looked at that light pole. Just make it to the
Baby
light
steps.
pole. Yeah, it's just these baby steps. And sometimes in life, when we find ourselves in tough spots, it's literally just looking ahead and saying, I just got to make it through this day. Mm-hmm. And some days are harder than others.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And, you walk through these things, but you come out, and even though you don't like people calling you strong, you come out galvanized by walking through this fire. And there strengths that you have that other people that have not walked through the fire just don't have. They just don't have. And everybody's got that inside of them. But like you said, you got to go down there and pick it out. Yeah. So what's next for you? I see you running all over the place, doing virtual races.
Yeah.
So
all my races got canceled. Yeah. So for fun, a friend of mine have been signing up for virtual races. Yeah. And that kind of keeps us motivated to have something to look forward to. So it's like we didn't have the one race we signed up for, but we have this. And so we pick a day, we're going to do it, and we go and run, and then we put our results in and stuff. So I'm crossing my fingers, but I have signed up to do the Kiowa Marathon. Yes. Yeah, 2 weeks later, I signed up for another marathon, still in pain, healing from the Philadelphia, because I ended up, turns out I had really hurt my IT band badly. I signed up for another one. But Kiowa is where we got engaged. Yeah. And so I think if I had known that race had existed, I would have signed up for that one instead of Philadelphia. My brother-in-law failed to mention that every year it's bad weather on Marathon Day. Thank you so much. Yeah. But it was just good to run it with him. It was good to go visit. So I'm glad I did it. But now I'm looking forward to hopefully doing Kiowa, which I think will be so much fun to go back down there. And this time, instead of getting proposed to on the beach, I'm now running alongside the beach. I think it'd be fun. And we'll see what happens. I do want to do a half Ironman. Mm-hmm. That's now after last year going and cheering on some friends and seeing the race and just like, wow, just
Yeah.
being there in person. I was like, yeah, I want to do this now.
Yeah.
That's like, okay, I've done a marathon. I got to step it up.
Mm-hmm.
But now with the uncertainty, we don't know what's going to happen. So maybe that might not, that dream may get pushed to next year when I can really focus on it. But
yeah, there's a lot. I mean, we just don't know what's going to happen. So the word you use is right. Uncertainty with races now, but even now, like you said, there's virtual options. There's things you can do to keep going and keep reaching your goals. And wow, deep stuff today, Mr. Morris.
We've hit a lot of our topics we've talked about.
Yeah, we
mental
have.
toughness.
Yep.
Nutrition.
Yep. Yeah, running in the snow.
Running in the snow and sleep.
Things I have run in snow before, not when it's snowing, but through snow. But this
I hate. I would rather
the rain and the sleet.
I'm different. I would rather run when it's 105 degrees than when it's 35 degrees. I hate running.
35 degrees, just cold, is not a problem. But soaking wet, 35 degrees and wind. That was a whole, because when my first half marathon after he died was 2019. I ran the Prisma Health half marathon, and mile 7, the heavens opened up and drenched us with rain. And it was like in the 41, 42 degrees. So we got to the finish and I was soaking wet and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is so horrible. I think it was just preparing me for what was to come in the future of like, well, you made it through that, because I did think about that when I was running. I was like, well, it kind of did prepare me. I still don't like it.
Yeah.
If it's raining and cold out, you will not find me running. It's like, if it's not race day, I don't have to run in it. So
I mean, you take what the course gives you.
Yeah, it's like when I'm out there, I will toughen up and I will push through. But otherwise, I want to be at home where it's warm and dry.
Well, Chrissy, thank you for coming on. Hal is right that I think we hit just about every theme that we usually talk about on the podcast here with you, and I appreciate you coming and being transparent and talking about a tough subject but when we talk about those things, we always get feedback that it helps other people, and you just never know when your story may inspire someone else to maybe pick themselves up and get through the day, literally get through the day. And so we appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. We look forward to chronicling the rest of your journey.
Thank you.
Maybe you can come on again and tell us about the Kiowa. Have you got a goal set for that? I always ask that question. So now you're on the record.
Definitely hoping to PR because I just barely made it in under 5 hours for Philadelphia. So my goal is more of the 4-hour range.
Oh, there's no ranges on the Do Hard Things Today podcast.
Yeah, my goal was 4:20. Okay. My goal was 4 hours 20 minutes.
Okay,
and I was pretty on track for that in the beginning until the weather changed and the pain started.
So what's your goal? You're faster than me. You're out of my league.
No, 4:20. I am not that fast. I have some people. They're like, "Oh no, she's speedy." It's like, no. 4:20 is my goal.
4:20.
4:20. And anything faster than that is just icing on the cake.
All right. So 4:15, Kiowa Marathon.
Yeah, that would be nice. Dream would be to one day actually qualify for Boston, but that I would have to run a whole lot faster than what I am right now. But one can dream. One can dream.
My goal for qualifying for Boston is just living long enough to where I just outlive everybody else. And there's like no age group. I get to the 109 age group, and they're like, he's the only one. Yeah, he's the only one. But that's cool. That is, coming from not liking running and then running a half marathon, running that first 10 miler, to now.
I've run before a lot.
Yeah.
I just never imagined. Yeah. Well, running was always good for me, and now it's a little bit more of an obsession now.
Yeah. Well, we can tell, and you've done a great job, and just watching you you run in your times, there's no doubt you'll make that 4:15, and you can come back on and tell us about it.
I will.
Yep.
You may break 4. Who knows what you do?
I would love that.
Yeah. You may.
We
Well,
go run with some of those speedy runners with the Hub City.
that's right. Yeah,
Go chase them down.
They're faster than me. I can go for a long time, but I'm just not fast. But, well, anyway, Hal,
Awesome.
man, good to be back behind the microphone. Man, great topic. Great topic. We appreciate you
Yes, thank you.
sharing again. And man, I think she proved today that if like we always say, if you will do hard things today, tomorrow will take care of itself. Find that pole, that next pole that you got to run to, and just run to it, and then find that next one and keep running and running and running. For Hal Morris, Christa Jones, Kevin Harrison, the Do Hard Things Today podcast.